So we'll go straight into it. James Lapton, Buddy McGIRT, thank you for joining me today, first of all, buddy.
My pleasure, thank you.
So we're going to do the previous show as mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit about Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant. First of all, just based on form, obviously Canelo's been very active in the last 12 months. How much will that play a part coming into this fight?
I think it's going to help him in the sense that, he's fighting a very good fighter. I mean, he's not fighting a guy that's here, he's fighting a guy that's there. So I think by him being active, it's going to work in his favor. But I also think that it's going to be a very interesting fight. I think that Plant has what it takes to beat him. But the key is you have to, when you fight a guy like Canelo, you have to keep that focus. Even though it's a 12-round fight, you got to keep it for 15 rounds. Mentally, you got to be ready for 15 rounds, even though it's a 12-round fight. You got to have that mentality for like 1 hour to stay focused and not get off course.
A lot of people seem to write off Caleb Plant already. Why do you feel he has the tools that can beat Canelo? What have you seen from him?
Well, I've only seen him fight twice. I mean, I think he's a very good boxer. He's very well schooled. He has a lot of stuff down, basics down pat. And, the kid can fight. He's the real deal. I mean, and I think that it's a fight that they both need right now at this time in their career.
Because so many write off Plant and anybody who fights Canelo, is that dangerous for complacency for Canelo Alvarez?
I think that Canelo, if he fought a midget, he wouldn't be complacent right now. He's on the roll right now, and he's out to prove something. And I think by Plant bringing in Andre Ward has pretty much letting a little fire under Canelo. Which is good. Which is good. I think it was a good move on Plant's behalf. Because Andre Ward had a way of making guys dance to his beat. So I'm not saying he's going to get Plant to do that overnight, but if he can get him to do half of that, it'll be interesting.
I was going to move on to what do you make of the Andre Ward? What can Andre Ward give to Caleb Plant that he's not already got?
Well, to be honest, it's hard to say because I'm not in the gym. I can't see, exactly what Plant does every day. Like I say, I only seen him fight twice, so I really couldn't tell you too much about him. But when I did see him, I was really impressed. But I think that, of course, if Ward didn't see any little rough edges, he wouldn't have taken the job. Some things that he can, improve and make him better.
Andre Ward's not known for being a coach. I don't know if he does help out in the gym with anybody else at all. Is that a disadvantage for him? For Ward going to camp with Plant? No,
I don't think so. Andre Ward's pretty smart. I don't think he's gonna take on a job that's gonna be too big, like gonna have too much work to do. Take on something that you need a little bit of work. And I think that like I say, he's smart. He's not gonna take on too much too soon.
Do you feel the fact of his high ring IQ and boxing brain will help him transition into a coaching role?
It will, but it's tough when you're coming from being a fighter to being a trainer. He's got Caleb Plant, so he's starting off with a good fighter. You know what I mean? But when you're coming in and you're working with guys from day one, it's not that easy.
For yourself, how did you find a transition from fighter to coach?
It took a while. It's like I say, it's not easy because you have to understand that these guys were like you were at one time in your career, trying to learn. You can't expect them to pick it up within 2 or 3 rounds.
Do you feel that he's better placed to come into a coaching role because it's Caleb Plant, because it's a world champion, somebody who's been there and is at the top level already?
It's hard to really say. It's because Andre's like a really easygoing guy. You know what I mean? And when you become a trainer, sometimes it takes you to that other side.
In terms of Canelo Alvarez, there's been a lot of negativity around his camp recently with Oscar Valdez, Eddie Reynoso, the failed drugs tests, and there's always been that air of talk around Canelo and Canelo's fights, because he's also tested positive previously. Do you feel that's something that will haunt him for his whole career?
I think in a sense, yeah, because it's nothing positive, it's something negative. And, unfortunately, all these things are happening, and everyone has an excuse of why they did what they did. But what I don't understand is, how could they let Valdez still fight? That's what I don't understand. You know, I mean, there's fighters that tested positive, and bam, they not only were they not allowed to fight, they were suspended, they were fined. You know, Antonio Tarver, for instance. You know, it's been almost 10 years. You know what I mean? Here's a guy who tests positive, and the next month he's fighting. I mean, and so I think that's really, really going to hurt. That's really, stuff like that is hurting boxing.
Absolutely. Do you feel that there's no punishment for the crime as such?
And then, look, he fought. He made whatever money he made. He defended his title, and he's on to the next. So it's like it never happened. But the reality of it is, it happened. So he should suffer like everybody else. So if one guy robs a bank and the judge lets him go, another guy robs a bank and another guy gets 20 years. You know what I mean? It don't make sense.
Is that going to push more fighters towards performance-enhancing drugs?
You know, that you know what I mean, that is because see what happens if they get caught, they're going to bring this argument up. You know what I mean? And even though I'm against it, I think that it's really bad that fighters got to take these things, or are taking them. Let me rephrase that. Unless it's for like a real medical reason, then I understand. But just to be taking it to get an advantage, I think personally they should be banned.
Caleb Plant voiced his concerns about Canelo Alvarez and his previous failed test, and obviously the no failed test in the camp. Why? Some people say, well, why fight him? Why put your life at risk against somebody you feel may be cheating?
I respect Caleb Plant because he wants to fight the best. See, not too many guys are doing that today. Finally, they're getting good fights, the best fighting the best. But look how long it's taken for that to happen. You know, some fights are being made, I think, maybe a year too late, but they're still making them, which is good. But I think Plant wants to be the man who beats the man.
In terms of Canelo, obviously his record speaks for itself. Recent history, he's been steamrolling his opponents. Billy Joe Saunders, your new charge, Callum Smith. What is it about Canelo? What makes him so good?
I just think he does everything good, and he puts it all together at the right time.
But is he beatable?
Yeah. He's beatable without a doubt. Like I say, when you fight a guy like him, you have to stay, in your mind, you got to be focused for an hour of just doing what you do. You cannot lose a step, because if you lose a step, it's all over. If you slip up once, it's all over.
With the Billy Joe Saunders fight, obviously that was stopped because of the injury. He did have some early success. I don't think he was winning the fight at the time of stoppage, but do you feel if the injury hadn't occurred, could he have been successful for the rest of the fight?
To be honest, I didn't see the fight, so I couldn't answer that question. I didn't see it.
Because he's another one he's very slick, he's a mover like
Right.
Caleb Plant. You know, we've seen guys like Golovkin in there with Canelo and he's not stopped him, for example.
Right.
Do you feel it's going to take somebody who is slick, who is elusive to beat Canelo?
You got to be a little bit of everything. Got to be a little bit of everything. You got to be able to get his respect, you know, touch him a little bit, let him know, hey, you mess up, I can clip you, and box him.
For Caleb Plant, in terms of his experience, on his CV, he's not got a standout name as such. He's not got a big opponent that he's beaten. Do you feel that may be a disadvantage to him? Or?
No, I think that's going to help him in the sense that, you know, a lot of people well, some people, I'm not going to say a lot, some people are counting him out. They're not expecting him to do good against. They think that he's going to get steamrolled. But, you know, real boxing people are going to be like, no, it's not happening like that.
Absolutely. And finally, in terms of the fight, a prediction from yourself?
You know what? I'm not going to. That's a fight that I just want to watch. I'm not going to make a prediction because on any given night, anything can happen.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned obviously it's a fight you want to see. It's the best fight and the best. Do you hope that after this we see that more often at
Yes.
the right time?
Yes, at the right time, exactly.
Absolutely.